Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is an English translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Saturday night at Darul Uloom Kantaria in Bharuch, Gujarat, India. Saturday, the 24th of Ramadan, 1444, corresponding with the English date 15th of April 2023. Hazrat Wala starts off this Majlis by reciting the ayat of the Quran Majid. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ. Hazrat Wala says that you people have gathered to listen to the talks of deen. Taraweeh is over, then too you are here ready to listen. Whereas by and large you would find in the villages etc., after the Taraweeh Salat people go and sleep, they go and rest. MashaAllah, here there is some dilchaspi, enthusiasm, shock, etc., which deserves to be congratulated, praise to be given to it. Qabila Mubarakbad. The talks of deen, the talks of Allah and His Rasul. This year is a great fortune. In the entire lifespan, there must be some time that is spent in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This year is so weighty, understand it this way, that if 10 days or 10 gatherings of useless talk and futile talk on one side, and on the other side you have just one gathering or one day of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will be so weighty that it will outweigh and put aside those 10 days, and this year will reign supreme. Therefore, spend your time in the remembrance of Allah, spend your time in salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in listening to the talks of the Buzurgan-e-Deen. This kitab that I have here with me, Asharatu Qawaid fi Tazkiyatin Nufus, 10 principles in the purification of the nafs. So the first point that's mentioned here is that of tilawat, that of Quran. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته. The first point is that of Tawheed. First point is that of Tawheed. So here, هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته. So the express intention that Allah Ta'ala commissions the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam is mentioned in this ayat. And the first point here that's mentioned is that of tilawat. Why? Because it is because of tilawat that a person is then affected, and then from there he is encouraged to go to the next step, which is that of ta'lim. The Quran, the kuffar themselves were so well acquainted and well aware about the great effects of the Quran, so much so that they would tell their children and their spouses and their family people, لا تسمعوا لهذا القرآن, don't listen to this Quran. وَالْغَوْ فِيهِ, and at that time they do law, useless, futile things, clap hands, blow a whistle, etc. Do all these type of things so much that there is so much of confusion that a person will not be able to listen to the words of the Quran Majid. So just like how we recite the Quran and there is great reward in that, similarly by listening to the Quran there is great reward in that. Now my dada and my walid, Hazrat Wala is saying, my paternal grandfather and my father, they had their ta'alluq with the deen. My dada didn't really know much, but he had great thirst for the deen. He would want to give the adhan, etc. And then my father, he stayed with Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab, and he used to take us there. So the Quran has come here for our islah and for our rectification. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes so that he can explain and make tashri of the Quran to us. It is a great honor for us that we honor the Quran, and in making hifazat of the Quran, we will be protected. Not only us, rather the women folk as well. The Quran was just recited now. It was recited and we listened to it as well. Allah Ta'ala make this year common. Allah Ta'ala accept it. You know, I went to some place in the villages and there were some people speaking negative talk about the students and the maktab, the madrasa that was running there. At that time, and that is the habit in the villages, in the rural areas, they were having hukka there. And I said to them, now tell me who's better. You people are sitting and talking away here and smoking your hukka pipe, whereas those children are sitting and reciting the Quran. It left them all silenced and they stopped their conversation just there. So alif, lam, mim, the individual, the huruf al-muqatta'at, the individually mentioned letters. We don't even know the matlab and the meaning of it, but we have been commanded to recite it. And if we don't recite it, thinking that we don't know the meaning, the Quran will be then left incomplete. But the fact of the matter is that Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala also didn't know the meaning of it, whereas he was the head of those who understood the Quran, or those who understood the commentary and the tafsir of the Quran. Rather, even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not know the meaning of it. Rather, Allahu a'lamu bimiradihi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows its meaning. So this year, to acknowledge that I don't know, this is something great. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, in so many of his masails, he openly declared, La adri, I don't know. Question comes, the answer, I don't know. So this La adri, I don't know, is a separate knowledge department and category of knowledge on its own. So keep some type of a habit in reciting the Quran so that you may be counted amongst the Qurra and those who recite the Quran. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Taraktu fiikum thaqalain. I am leaving and going and leaving you with the two weighty things, the Quran and the Hadith. Now, it's just not Quran that's mentioned, rather Sunnat as well. And so long as there is no Sunnat, that equation will then not be complete. Some people deny that and they only want to accept that of the Quran. Where would they then be left? Hazrat Maulana Habibur Rahman Azmi has written a kitab on Hadith, and that kitab was presented to Hazrat Tanvi, and Hazrat Tanvi said that Maulana Habibur Rahman ne aisa kitab likha, hum bhi likh na paate. He has written a kitab of such a nature that I also wouldn't be able to have written such a kitab. You know, the vice chancellor came from one of these universities, Aligarh it was, and he was speaking. He mentioned that policies and ideologies change every 100 years. And then he went on to say, it seems that these days it's changing every decade, not a century, every decade. And then I went on to say, thinking about what he's speaking, that rather it changes every year. But remember, the Quran, after 1400 years, the ideology, the policy, the theme, the articles, the subject matter, the content of the Quran hasn't changed and will not change. La rayba fi, there is no doubt in it. Now, Allah is saying, Alif Lam Mim, Dhalikal Kitab, that is the Kitab. Now normally it's supposed to be Hadal Kitab, this is the Kitab, and that is actually for something which is distant. But you must have read and understood that here Dhalika is used to show azmat, honor, respect for the Quran Majid. That is the kitab denoting respect. So in short, understand so much that this is the greatest book out of all books. And I said to you that even the kuffar were so affected by it that they would declare to their children and their spouses, do not listen to the Quran. And reason being here is that they knew that if their children heard the Quran, then they would be affected by it. So Allah Ta'ala has given us Ramadan, and Allah has given us the Quran as well. Now my grandson, Usama, he came here, and Qari Siddiq, he studied under Qari Siddiq, and he done the Qiraat, and he's still busy with his studies, etc. Alhamdulillah, last night he made khatam of the Quran. The women folk there also gathered, and he made khatam of the Quran. Now, Maulana Rabi Saheb, I was in front of them some few weeks ago, and I was speaking to them about Al-Hubbu Asasi, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that love is my foundation. It is what Mohammad and love, that everything continues smoothly, and in its absence everything goes upside down. So the Christians were also waiting that what will come and how will a deen be completed. Our deen is perfected and completed. Mukammal it is. Here there is thirst and enthusiasm. Alhamdulillah, a little has started up in our places. Many things of yours we have adopted there. And I say the Sunnat-e Gujarati, even this year of awarding children with prizes in it, I took this concept there, and I said to the people, they reward the children by sending them for Umrah. Listen, maybe you can't do that. At least just give them a scarf or a rumal that they would put over their heads or something like that. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created jinn and insan except so that they can worship me. So the body makeup is that of khun, safra, sauda and balgham, the pure blood, and then the yellowish part of it, sauda, the blackish part of it, and balgham, phlegm. Now so long as there is no tawazun and good compatibility with all of this tawazun, it doesn't work. So long as it doesn't incorporate with each other well, then a person would be then sick. But if there is tawazun and everything is in its place, then a person will be blessed with health. Now, we're checking this year blood pressure and sugar and this and that, all in the name of finding out how is the body doing, and am I okay, or is there something to worry about, etc. Similarly, why don't we look at the aspects of deen, tawheed, risalat and qiyamat, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the coming of qiyamat. Now these are the fundamental beliefs amongst other beliefs, most importantly tawheed, risalat and qiyamat, that we should make sure that we have complete and full iman in. The oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And similarly, there were many people who rejected qiyamat. This which we speak about, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. The salient characteristic and feature of a mu'min is that he believes in the unseen. He believes in the akhirat. He believes in qiyamat. Now it's the last few days of Ramadan now. Allah Ta'ala bless us with the fuyuz and the barakat of Ramadan. Rather, it is a gift that we have received. The revelation of the Quran in this month is a gift from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Mujaddid al-Fithani, we speaking about Tawheed and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that Hech arzu nest, that I have no other desire and wish other than I have a corner of solitude in which I abundantly repeat this kalima over and over again. Now, why is ascribing partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala such a terrible thing? Why is it hated so much? Why is it so abhorrent? The reason for that is that its relationship is with that of the heart, whereas salat, its relationship, it is with the outward parts of the body, your hands and your legs and your postures. You're moving from one posture to another posture with your body. So the ta'alluq of salat is more physical, and the ta'alluq of iman and shirk, etc., that is with the heart. Therefore, shirk, due to it being connected with the heart, when a person has shirk with him, it is the worst ever. Shirk is that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can never ever tolerate. Wahidullah, therefore proclaim the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. Whoever says la ilaha illallah shall enter Jannah. So this is Maktubu Rabbil Alameen, the Quran. It is the letter and the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Rabb of all the worlds. The Quran is in Arabic. We should read it. We should go to the ulama and make arrangements and an effort to understand it. Alamgir asked his ministers, do they know how many sunnats they are in salat? And when they couldn't ask him, he then advised to them, why don't you people go to the ulama and go and learn from them? You don't even know the basics of your deen. Now ulama have written extensively on this here. His intention here was twofold. Number one, he wanted them to learn the deen. That's why he told them to go to the ulama. And number two, he wanted the ma'ash and the livelihood of the ulama to continue in a beautiful manner, because when these people would then go and try and get tuition from the ulama, then they would pay the ulama there, due to which the livelihood of the ulama would also be seen too. So man qala la ilaha illallah sidqan min qalbihi dakhala al-jannah. Whoever says la ilaha illallah sincerely, honestly from his heart, will enter Jannah. So we have Ramadan. Allah Ta'ala bless us with His barakat. Shab Qadr, the night of Qadr. Allah Ta'ala bless us with that barakat also. Maulana Ali Mia, I used to go and spend with him Shab Qadr every year. But after I started coming here, I was unable to do that. And it was Shab Qadr, and I wrote a letter to him, due to which Maulana became extremely happy, saying to him in that letter that, Hazrat, I'm unable to be with you, but then too, continue sending or focusing your special attention on me. अपनी तवज्जो खास मबजूल फरमा दीजिए. So kalima tayyiba, this kalima tayyiba, even if we can't a lot, at least a few times, at least say it 10 times. Allah Ta'ala bless us with the shafa'at and the intercession of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his pleasure as well. Now let us make dua. Allahumma allif bayna qulubina وأصلح ذات بيننا واهدنا سبل السلام ونجنا من الظلمات إلى النور وجنبنا الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن وبارك لنا في أسماعنا وأبصارنا وقلوبنا وأزواجنا وذرياتنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا واخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربنا لا تجعلنا فتنة للذين كفروا واغفر لنا ربنا إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. Because of the barakat of us gathering here and listening to the talks of Allah and Rasul, because of that and through the barakat of that, उसी के सदका और तुफेल से Allah Ta'ala हमारी मग़फ़िरत फरमा दे. Allah Ta'ala make our मग़फ़िरत. Afiyat is in adopting Islam and coming into it completely and totally. Aslim taslam. Bring Iman, bring Islam, surrender yourself, hand over yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completely and totally, and you would be safe and you would be protected. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.